This is Neil Schneider for MTBS-TV at CES 2019. We're in for a bit of a treat today. We got ourselves a live MTBSer here.
Yeah.
Kevin Henderson
right.
from Pimax. Who are you known as on MTBS?
I was Super Kev on MTBS.
Where's that super outfit, though? I was expecting you to have the whole cape and the whole thing.
We all had the crazy names back then, didn't we? You know,
so
there was Cyber Reality and Palmer Tech and Two Eyes and a zillion people that posted, I don't know, thousands of times, you know, back in, 7, 8 years ago now, I guess. It's hard to believe.
It sounds like you're living out your dreams because you work for Pimax now.
Indeed.
What are you doing with Pimax?
I'm the head of U.S. operations. I run U.S., Canada, and Mexico for North America. And I also am setting up all of our operations here as far as support and service and inventory and all of that. And I'm also now the company spokesperson.
Okay, wonderful. So why was this important to do? I mean, Pimax is an overseas company. Why was it absolutely necessary to set up U.S. operations?
Well, it's hard to buy when the lag of time for shipping and receiving is 3 weeks each way. Also, tech support. People want to have rapid one-day tech support, same day. Get somebody that can understand them. Eliminate that language barrier. Get it fast. People anything like me, they're not very patient. I know I'm not. So I order something, I want it either today or tomorrow. You can't do that if it's sitting in a warehouse over in China. So we wanted to solve that issue.
Sounds like they're going to be keeping you very busy, Kev.
Oh yeah, busy man. It's been crazy. We've had. I've done this a long time. I've been coming to CES for almost 30 years, and so since the 80s. So I've seen more response on this than anything I've ever done. I mean, more people with actual plans that show up and want to do things, big projects and all sorts of things. It's because we're offering something that is a kind of unique here in a lot of ways, and pushing that envelope for VR, which we're trying to do, and that's it's a good place to be, and it's a difficult place to be.
Let's talk about some of the amazing stuff you've got going on here at CES 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So what have we got here? So
here we have the Pimax 5K Plus. We also have the Pimax 8K. The 8K is actually two 4K screens that are 3840 by 2160 per eye, which would be considered a very high resolution, in most situations. And this is the 5K Plus, which is a 5K. It's 2560 by 1440 per eye, and which is also a very high resolution. It's a very wide field of view, so it's completely immersive compared to many things. You get a field of view that's almost your entire width of your vision. And our vertical field of view is, almost your entire vertical field of vision. So, it's kind of all around improvement to the visual experience and the immersive experience that we've been working on. And we're shipping. So, this is not a theoretical exercise that you often see. We're literally in the thousands of units shipped. And we're building hundreds a day, so we're come a long way from CES. I wasn't with the company last year at CES, but at that time they weren't making any, so from 0 to 60. So it's a good place to be able to say that you've turned some of the things that people, and especially guys like me who are big VR, MTBS years ago, where we dreamed about things, what it could be like. It's a good thing to see it kind of get there after all this time, and that's what attracted me to come to Pimax and look for for some partnerships and work, because I'm a VR fanatic and I love it. So that's just where I'm at.
Well, that sounds obviously it's very exciting. Yeah. So I actually tried out the 5K Plus. Very impressed. Very smooth image. Yeah. What can you say about? I know you mentioned that it's got a wide field of view. Do you know off the top of your head what the field of view is?
Yes, it's a for most people, depending on, there's some aspects to the eye and your positioning and IPD, but for most people it's around 170 degrees horizontal, diagonal about around 200 degrees on all of our devices, which is quite the immersive experience compared to a lot of things.
That's a far cry from the 90 degrees we were originally so excited about, yeah?
Hey, I was excited about that too. I mean, man, I was literally F5, waiting for my DK1 back in 1,000 years ago. So, come a long way since those days.
Now, you've got, you mentioned you got the AK model as well. Something new I've seen this year is you've got eye tracking. Can you talk? What are you doing with eye tracking?
We have, so let me Let me show you something real quick here on the device. So the Pimax devices are fully expandable, which is a great thing about them. And the eye tracking, we have a place for the module to fit right here. And you can also add other expansion modules on the bottom right here. And the eye tracking literally snaps in over our lens assembly, and it gives you things like foveated rendering. It gives you menu controls. It gives you, basically the full boat of features that you can get with eye tracking, and it allows you to have an immersive experience with lower-end hardware. Of course, we've got a lot of other aspects that we have done and achieved recently that let you run on lower-end hardware, so that you can drive all these pixels that a kind of a bleeding-edge device has, which is your challenge for this kind of thing. And we're trying to meet that challenge by offering technologies that let you experience it with a pretty wide variety of computing. So
let's talk about the hardware, if you will. Like I know one of the challenges with Pimax is that because the resolutions are so high, you need a lot more processing power to drive it than previously anticipated. Right. But you've got we talked about a little bit about foveated rendering, where we just for those unfamiliar, it concentrates the processing power of where you're looking versus the areas that you don't actually see. So there's a lot of energy's not wasted this way. Yep. But you also have a software technique as well that you're introducing, yes?
We do. We have a new technique. We introduced the beta of it. It was something that we announced a year ago in the original announcements, called Brain Warp. It took a while the research and all the engineering took a pretty good team, and it took them quite a bit of time.
Is it true that after Brain Warp you're never the same?
Yeah. That could be a good thing, but basically what it does is it's very similar to ASW, very similar to SteamVR's motion smoothing. But what it does is it calculates delta frames, and it gives you a much higher frame rate on lower end hardware. So you combine that with many of the other features we have. We allow you to change the overall screen refresh rate. You can do 90 hertz, you can go all the way down to 60. So if you do 60, you can get a smooth experience also. Combine that with Brain Warp on the 8K, which has a particularly high number of pixels at 4K per eye. We have a scaler built in the device. So the native resolution coming in is 2560 by 1440, and it scales it. So we've done a lot of things to try to give you that premium experience with the higher resolution and the wider field of view and some levels of expandability.
Wonderful. Now, we've got the hardware, we've got the high-resolution display, we've got eye tracking for those that want it. Right. I understand you got some new controllers as well. Yeah,
one thing to mention as well, just throw it out there, is that we have a partnership with Leap Motion, and we make a module that snaps on the bottom here that looks like it's natively part of the device when you snap it on there. It's by design. You snap it on and you can get a very wide field of view hand tracking that we've custom developed together with them. It's the widest field of view hand tracking as well for full knuckle detection and immersive tech there, and it's fully compatible with everything that they make. So there's that. But also we have our hand controllers, and this is the Function Electronic prototype with all the sensors. Of course, we haven't covered up the sensors yet and made it a beautiful thing, because we are changing it. We're iterating very rapidly, but we have both a CapSense version and a joystick version with finger tracking, all of the features that would bring us into parity with some of the other things that are going to be available, and that I'm also excited about, by the way. We're being fully supported by our partners. Companies like Valve and NVIDIA have been instrumental in what we're doing, and so this is a device that we're working on right now, and it'll be in small scale production in April, and then by the summer this will be in full production, and people will be able to get it with very rapid shipping and the same US-based support system that we have for our headsets.
Now, one of the most important features of modern virtual reality devices is what we call positional tracking.
That's right.
So how are you getting positional tracking to work with the Pimax devices?
Yeah, so we use the Lighthouse system that we've collaborated with Valve on their Lighthouse system. We're using the new Lighthouse 2.0s. And so we're fully Lighthouse 2.0 compliant on all of our devices, both headsets and trackers. We have some other things that we're working on that will augment that we're going to announce later. By the way, we're going to be at GDC coming up with NVIDIA. And we have some things to talk about there. But that said, the Lighthouse 2.0 system has been, just fundamentally useful in getting high resolution, high fidelity tracking. And that is, we've gotten it down to a science. And I think everyone that's been here, I haven't seen one person who has experienced anything but a premium tracking where it's on par with with the Vive and other devices that are out there. Of course, with the 2.0, you can get a really wide play field compared to the Lighthouse's version 1. So we've come a long way with these things, and Valve's been a massive part of that. The library of products in Steam VR is quite extensive now, and people can get a giant experience right away when they jump into VR.
Yeah, I really liked what I saw this year. What about, are you starting to entertain wireless options as well? Is it on the roadmap?
Wireless is on the roadmap. We're doing testing, every day with prototypes that are wireless. We have our modular systems, which let you daisy chain various modules, lets anyone who already has or buys a Pimax to be able to add wireless and eye tracking and hand tracking in the full boat. So you can expand as you go. As far as the wireless goes, it's a particularly difficult challenge for us because we have so much more resolution to push. The less resolution you have, the lower the frame rate you have, the easier it is. So, in our case, it's a bigger hill to climb, a mountain to climb, really. So you just don't have the bandwidth to get everything you want. But now, Intel has stepped up, Qualcomm has stepped up. They all have solutions that do meet the standard, and we have actually built prototypes that are very high bandwidth that can handle our high resolution. A lot of them were built to be VR oriented. So on that, I think this year we will indeed have a wireless option as well, and it'll be a module that is offered for anyone that already has a Pimax or wants to jump in.
So what about market choice? This is obviously very high resolution solutions.
Right.
Do you, Pimax in particular, are you working to target professional markets, consumer markets, both? What do you see the future for Pimax?
Well, almost all a good 90% of the customers that we have dealt with are consumer-oriented Steam VR gamers, and many of them already have a Vive or an Oculus Rift, guys like me. However, we have VR arcades that use Pimaxes now. We have a VR roller coasters in Orlando that run with Pimaxes now. We're running pilots all over the place. Of course, our biggest thing is to develop is to deliver to everyone who's pre-ordered. So we're just running pilots. We're using that mostly for testing. But yeah, we're going to be able to deploy into many markets on the VAR side. Engineering, CAD, education, training, a whole lot of things, but getting the high volume production is key, and ramping up every day is where we are, and on that hockey stick production method.
Wonderful. So one more question for you. From a developer's point of view, you're dealing with high resolution. You've got like eye track and all kinds of technologies that you're working with. Right. Has Pimax had to develop new developer relationships, or is it all handled through Steam VR? What's the strategy?
Steam VR has, fortunately, they were very visionary. When you have your open VR SDK, your Steam VR integration, they put some thought into that. They knew that wider field of view was going to happen. They knew that higher resolution was going to happen. These were all inevitabilities. They knew that eye tracking was going to happen, the hand tracking, and all the immersive techs, like the various new controllers, were going to happen. So long ago, they began to build the infrastructure for this. So when you get a Pimax with the wide FOV and the high resolution, you immediately get that benefit for anything you have. So now, to that end, we had to do some tweaking in our software to catch those fringe elements, where people who didn't take it all the way. But we support almost everything. We literally have hand tested 1,100 titles, I think, to make sure that you get the full experience. And our PyTool software actually detects those titles, and we're adding new ones all the time, every week.
And just so people see how far things have come, how big is Pimax now? How many people do you have working with the company?
Yeah, we've added, company is 3 times the size it was 1 year ago, or more than that. So literally having to expand. We've added, a couple hundred people, in the last, year or so. So it's growing, and we have to expand much further. We really do have a response that's going to require a pretty good size support teams and a pretty good size manufacturing teams, and it takes time to build that up and do it right. And but training and hiring experts in the field, some of those people are hard to find, so
They were smart to hire an MTBSer too.
I'm proud to be an MTBSer, man. That was my favorite go-to place for many years, and there was no place to go to find out what was going on better than that. So I think that the community, the VR community, that's where it started, in my opinion. That's kind of where the genesis of the whole thing was. It was, so now I'm hoping that VR expands into just average Joe walking into Best Buy, and that's what he wants. That's the go-to item, the big screen TV and some, and VR HMD. So hope we can get there.
Well, it's been a complete pleasure.
Oh man, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys. It was great to meet you.
This is Neil Schneider for MTBS-TV at CES 2019. We will, of course, be back with more. Thank you for watching.